Thank you for playing this. Good
Oh,
Friday
yes.
song. For the fourth most bets to win the college football championship are on, of course, Colorado. Their odds to win the national championship have improved.
Yes.
There is the cult of Dion.
Yes.
Is there any other coach in college athletics where you are fans of the coach, but not necessarily the program?
I think Saban had some bit of that to him. I think people jumped on that bandwagon.
People used to feel that way about Paterno.
I
Bobby Bowden
tend to
some
believe
degree.
this is, college football has never had somebody like Dion.
No.
They have very rarely had.
Could you throw Harbaugh into that discussion? Because I think you had some people that looked at him and was like, I could have a beer with that guy. Well,
but you dislike Michigan, or you didn't really
Yeah.
care about Michigan? Possibly, but not on the level of Dion.
Not even close. Yeah, I agree.
I think there are a lot of
Nothing
people
like
that
it.
are Dion fans that don't really care about Colorado. It's
I agree
very
with that.
rare in college athletics.
I think most Colorado fans currently are that way.
One
But
of
it
our
is-
own, Chris.
It is the cult of Dion.
You remember when he was going to be the next head coach in Nebraska? There was a sign that in the stadium and said, "Welcome, Coach Prime." Would we have been all in on this if it was the shoes on the
I'm not
other
even
foot?
gonna.
I
I'm
lived
not
through
gonna
this.
pay
I don't
attention to
want
this.
to. Yeah. I lived through this thing a year and
It
a half
wasn't even a
ago.
possibility.
I didn't think so either. But people thought people.
Hey, remember when they
There
went
was
all white?
podcasts that were happening. We're saying, the guy that Coach Prime hired as his offensive coordinator told me he's going to Lincoln. That never happened either. But
I remember that day. I remember Lane Kiffin Day on this show. Who was
There
with
were
Matt
two
Campbell?
guys. One got hired. The other's in Lawrence.
Yeah.
Only two guys they talked to.
Bill Self?
Yes.
Oh!
Hey,
I
well,
love that Nebraska hand warmer.
They tried to. Bill Byrne tried to hire Bill Self.
How much different would the basketball program in Lincoln look?
Well, probably not much different because Bill Self
He
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
be
hung
here
around.
anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So Nebraska has.
Mizzou hired Quinn Snyder over.
Is there any
Bill
other coach that Nebraska's tried to hire? Trev's number 2 was Lance Leipold.
Kyle Whittingham.
And he let Lance Leipold know that if it didn't work out with Matt Rule, that they were.
Which is always a good way to hire somebody.
They were prepared. Well,
hey, if our first choice doesn't work out,
I was told that at my wedding. Actually.
So no, I'm okay with this.
Hi, Alicia.
I'm okay with this because he was very transparent. Like he was not going to get into we're playing you against him.
Sure.
They told Lance,
which is the right way to do it.
They told Lance that there were some things that might prevent Matt Rule from being the head coach at Nebraska. And if that is the case, be prepared. We will be making you a contract offer. But you know that we have to do our due diligence. You took a meeting with us. But if this happens,
how you feel about
we're
that,
coming.
Jimmy?
We're coming to this.
Feel great. Nebraska's got a great coach in Matt Rule, and I still have Mike. Everybody wins. James Franklin can go 10-2. Nobody's leading.
I don't think when Trev drove down to Lawrence, I don't think he said, "Hey, you're our number 2." I mean, people know this in the process.
Did you have us play this amazing song that inspires excitement to talk about Deion Sanders?
I'm just telling you about a Colt.
Yeah.
Okay.
When this is all said and done in Boulder after this year, it's going to be a fascinating experiment on how it all went.
When he's headed
But
to the Cowboys.
this is unlike anything in college sports where you have an abundance of fans that are drawn into your sport because of one guy that is coaching, and they don't really care about the Colorado program. They just want more Dion. They subscribe to Dion. They don't subscribe to, or they actually subscribe to Coach Prime. They don't subscribe to Colorado football. It is completely rare.
It's a dangerous game to play.
in the game of college athletics.
You'll see it next year when they have a good coach. They'll have less fans, but they'll be on their way.
Might win some football games.
Maybe.
All right, let's finish with our Big Ten. We got an email. If you're wondering where this stemmed from, we got an email last week about we dog on all the Big Ten teams not named Nebraska. So we said, you know what? Friday seems like a good day to be nice. So we've been nice for the last 2 days to 18 teams in the Big Ten.
It's been rough on Jimmy Chavez.
Me?
For you to be nice?
Have you not been listening? I'm like
self-admission.
Last week, before I went on vacation, Nick replaced me as the curmudgeon of the show.
Welcome back.
Purdue.
At least your football team doesn't suck as bad as your field does. The turf at Ross-Ade Stadium is the worst in the nation. Purdue won't be the worst team in the country, but they won't be great either.
Wow. Wow.
Was that positive?
I think so.
Their team is better than their field.
I still
positive.
love their coach. And for our Boiler fans here in the Omaha area, it's Big Ten Day.
Hammer
Or
down.
on Big Ten Network, it's Purdue Day. So enjoy.
It is. You got to watch the
Do
Purdue
love
spring
Ryan
game.
Walters.
Now there's a women's basketball game on.
BTN
February.
Elite later on the 2000 football team. Rest in peace, Joe Tiller. Hell of a coach. Great man.
Get a new field.
I mean, I have nothing to do with that.
Hey, early 2000s, Purdue and Illinois were churning out NFL dudes. They were winning.
Yeah. They have Kurt Kittner,
They were playing in big bowl games.
like the Micron PC Bowl.
But this
People
year,
are tearing their ACL on
this year, a positive, there will be a parade in West Lafayette.
For Zach Edey?
If you win 6 games,
Oh,
you will have a parade in West Lafayette.
they're not getting there.
I think it could be a rough year for Ryan Walters in year number 2.
Yeah, they're not.
before he goes to Boulder.
USC.
You have Lincoln Riley, and that might be the only positive you need. I think that defense is going to be much improved this year. I like the hire that they made a defensive coordinator. I don't know if this is going to be it's just Lincoln Riley and a quarterback, and it's going to look Heisman-esque season. Next year might be. I think they're going to have an okay season this year, but Lincoln Riley will get the ship ready.
What's an okay season at USC?
8 wins.
Yeah. This
Okay.
year.
And their win total is the same as Nebraska's, 7.5.
Good problem to have if you're in Lincoln. Bad problem to have if you're in Southern California.
Mm-hmm. I'll piggyback off. You say they have Lincoln Riley. USC still has the Song Girls. That's
Touche.
a positive. I don't care what you say. It's Friday.
Schematically, defensively, they will be better.
Kind of be hard to be worse.
True. True, but that shows you where you're starting from with
Could have hung around for a couple more years, Alex Grinch.
no way.
I mean,
No way.
for the rest of the Big Ten's sake.
No.
Surprised he made it as
Interesting.
long as he
That's
did.
what my positive
They-
should have been. They don't have Alex Grinch anymore.
There you go.
I also think, and this happened before they both have officially been members of the Big Ten. I think another part of the Big Ten is we're done playing nice in the Big Ten.
Except for on this show.
It's time to fleece each other's staff.
I mean, it's growing to a point where it's going to be almost hard not to.
Well, but, it's kind of been a gentleman's agreement. You don't see it as often like you do in the SEC. I think we're going to start to see that. Look at USC. They went across town to get UCLA's defensive coordinator. They tried to hire Nebraska's defensive coordinator. They'll be better schematically defensively. Now, their defensive backs aren't bad. So we'll see what all of that means.
Their defensive back scheme last year was probably the worst in the country.
What is going on there?
Whoa.
So
So
that is
celebrating.
fire?
I know it's supposed to be warm today, but
So that's
on Dodge.
like 87th and Dodge.
oh, really? That's the way it
Looks
goes.
like there might be a.
Is that the bank building? The American National?
Looks like they are having a hydrant party.
Barbecuing inside?
My favorite October 5th opponent for Nebraska, Rutgers.
You have something to build off of. You won 6 of your first 8 games a year ago. If Rutgers is bowl eligible again by the middle of October, I think it's another absolute win for this coaching staff, this team, and that program.
Greg Schiano, the consistency that he's brought to that program and everything we said earlier, he's a perfect coach for that school, and I don't think he ever will leave. I mean, he may listen one day, but he's in the right place for him, and they're on solid footing now. It's going to be hard to make jokes about Rutgers in the future.
Rutgers will be 4-1 when they come to Lincoln on October 5th.
Gary was about to say Rutgers is going to win the Big Ten by the look you just gave me.
They've turned the corner.
I think they've made a massive jump.
Yeah.
So
Also an Adidas school, by the way.
7 wins, maybe 8. They'll benefit from having no divisions.
Yeah, agreed. Didn't have to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State every year for sure.
Wisconsin.
At least you know what not to do now if you're Luke Fickell. Last year was a big learning curve for the Fighting Fix, and the 65th strength of schedule a year ago. Big jump in competition this year. You get Alabama at USC, Penn State at home, at Iowa, Oregon, and at Nebraska on the schedule this year.
Good Lord. Did you schedule Whitewater?
Might be a rough go for Luke Fickell this season.
Their positive is that they got last year over with, and they're continuing to establish what they're going to do. So they'll always be linked, like you said, Rule and Fickell. So while we watch what happens this year in Lincoln, a lot of people will be watching what happens in Madison with them, and I think they'll have a good year.
I have no idea what's going to happen other than
None.
The positive is
They'll be
if you're-
7-5, but better.
if you're a Wisconsin fan, you get to see some really good non-conference opponents.
Mhm.
Their schedule is what
I wish they
that
were.
one guy on ESPN called that one person that plays in the WNBA. Here's this Wisconsin might be one of the most fascinating teams in college football this year. Because what if Wisconsin is not Wisconsin successful? Do they blow up the offense?
I think the leash gets really short for Phil Longo.
So there is part of me that would not be surprised at all if when Wisconsin rolls into Lincoln on November 23rd, they're 4-6.
Me either. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You said 7-5. I think they're going to struggle to get to 6.
Maybe
with the
I'm
schedule.
being too positive.
The fact that when you looked at what the offense that they wanted to run, and you take a guy like Tanner Mordecai that should have just been copy and paste, and it should have looked seamless, and they struggled the way they did, that tells me there's an identity crisis in that locker room. And did it surprise you at all? When that, I mean, I think it surprised a lot of people, but when that offensive coordinator was hired,
hold on, back up here. Identity crisis in the locker room.
I think there's a lot of people that looked at the way it was done for a long time and said, that's who we are. Now we're bringing in these air raid concepts. And it looked from a systematic standpoint, last year, it still kind of looked like Wisconsin, but it never felt like Wisconsin.
That's why it'll be better.
And it felt like there was maybe a conflict of identity.
Well, you knew that going in because you were completely changing your offense.
I agree, but they did this thing where like they still tried to make it look like a power run game, but they still chucked the ball around the yard. Like, and maybe it's a lot of that was because they still had Braylon Allen and they felt like that was the strength of their offense, but it never felt like they fully committed to that style of offense.
They had injuries all over the map.
That too. That doesn't hurt.
I have no idea what to expect at Wisconsin because they could have one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. And it's Wisconsin, so they're supposed to win 7 or 8. And I said they could be 4-6 coming to Lincoln. They're one of the great unknowns, I think, in college football this year. Because what does year 2 look with that offense? Now with also a different quarterback. Can they stay healthy? But they've got Alabama, Penn State, and Oregon on their schedule. If they beat one of them, you go, oh, okay. I have no idea what to expect out of Wisconsin.
If they miss a bowl game this year, is Luke Fickell's seat hot next season?
Depends how it looks, but probably not. But next year they're gonna
starts getting really, really warm, in my opinion.
That's why I think they're gonna be better.
Well, if
record may not show it.
So yeah, I mean, outside of the Alabama game and potentially USC, Wisconsin will be favorites or slight underdogs in the rest of their games.
You don't think they'll be a double-digit underdog to Penn State?
No.
Okay.
I think that's a toss-up game. I think Iowa, Nebraska, Penn State, Oregon are their toss-up games. They got what? Their non-con is Alabama, Western Michigan, South Dakota.
Yeah, I think that's right.
They have Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, Minnesota on their schedule. They could get to 8. They could not become bowl eligible. I have no idea what to expect out of them this year. But if they beat one of those teams, Oregon, Penn State, or Alabama, you have to go.
It's a completely different conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're talking. All right. Finish with Nebraska.
The future is very, very bright. I
live there.
I have been. They've got a football program. I've been very bullish on this team. I think the wide receiver department has a major, major upgrade. I'm not as out on the running back room as a lot of people are. There's a lot of people that are in wait and see mode and talking about next year. The season's got all the makings of being really special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got them going 11-1, so
10-2. 10-2.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Because I'm curious.
Double down on that.
I'm curious.
And I'm not saying that to get clickbaits. I truly believe that
I'm
there's
winning
a path where that
season.
happens.
I'm on the record of this year sets up next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you have to be successful this year to have any. Oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
When did you become 10-2 guy?
When I walked into Memorial Stadium and I saw Dylan Raiola walk out there, being able to flip coverage, the offensive line responding, the communication on the field looking better, and I looked at the wide receiver room and went, those are Division I wide receivers.
Okay.
And the fact that you're hearing guys like Marcus Satterfield and Glenn Thomas talk about the strength of the pass game, and it looks like that's going to be the identity of this team this year. And you're talking about a freshman quarterback, and they have enough trust in him to do that. And you have guys that look like Jacory Barney, that look like Jamal Banks, that have Big Ten college football experience. And as of right now, heading into fall, knock on wood, this team is healthy. with the way that defense looked last year, and everything points to them taking a step forward. Now there's going to be more 3-3-5, 3-3-4, or 3-3-5 defense on film to be dissected by Big Ten offenses this year, and that's absolutely true. But if you see guys with the upside of a Prince Will, of a Cam Lenhart, and they take another step forward, plus you get Ty and Nash back this season, that front seven has a chance to be elite. And if you just have an offense with a heartbeat, that defense can get you 8 wins.
If they're not okay, so let me. I'm gonna say you're an 8-4 guy.
Okay.
Are you disappointed if they don't win 8 games?
Yes. I think this team is talented enough that if they don't win 8 games this season, you should be disappointed.
And won 8 games in 8 years.
I'm well aware, but you've never had a 5-star quarterback that looks like this. You've
I
never
would say that, but it's 7.
This wide receiver room has never looked this dynamic. You've never had a top 10 defense with an offense that looks this dynamic. Maybe since 2010, it looks like it should be a double-digit win team.
Nebraska won't be 5-7 forever, and at some point you have to say, "F it," they're going to be better. They will be better. I just have a hard time with hearing you say, and you're not alone, because I hear more of this. If you went 7-5, I'd be disappointed if they're 7-5. That being winning less than 8 games, you'd be disappointed.
It doesn't look disorganized. It doesn't look disheveled. You don't have the question marks about, can we look like a college football offense? And there's been this notation around this team that we watch teams all across the country be able to do X, Y, and Z and operate at a high level, and why can't we do it here? And I think those questions have been warranted. And when the product that we've seen this spring looks like the upper echelon of big time college football, and people are going to be pleasantly surprised by it, I think.
It's one reason. All these reasons are good why they're going to be better. It's something nice. But at the end of the day, it's Matt Rule, because everything he's done is calculated. Everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, everybody pulls in the same direction under him.
Why can't I correct him wrong?
Because he probably has a little more insight in
I'll one up that. It's
7-5, 8-4, and yes, sets up next year.
I don't even think it's Matt Rule. I think it's the organization skills of Matt Rule. Everybody is speaking the same verbiage, and it sounds like an echo of their head coach, and that is something you can't put a value on.
It sounds like what they're doing in Lawrence under Lance Leipold. I talked to some of my friends down there. I said, what it is everybody, nothing is left to chance. Everything is planned meticulously. Everybody from the top to the very bottom is pulling in the same direction. And if anybody strays from that, then they're not part of that. So what you're seeing is everything is being done with a purpose within that program. And if they're healthy, that's the best point you made. If they're healthy, yeah, good things will happen. But I do think this year sets up next year.
And you know where the buck stops. And that's something
Truman?
that you've been missing for a long time.
They're better than the last time they played. They have a better roster than the last time they played.
And they're going 12-0. No.
I think Bishop said like 9-3, so you're not alone on that.
The talent level.
So can I ask a quick question here? So you would be disappointed in 8 wins, and you just rattled off what you saw in spring, which we always got knocked for. Don't read too much into spring.
Guess we're in Breon Carnes.
But spring has changed people's opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think a lot of that is because of the organization of it, not because one guy looked great.
I don't know about organization. They have better players. They know what they're doing. They have an adult running the program. They have better players in the program. They don't have elite players in the program yet. I can't make a guy an elite player if he hadn't even played a game yet. He may get there sooner than later, and that would be a huge benefit, and I think we're on the right track. I'm going to tell you one of the things that until I see differently, I'm very cautious to go up and over. What about coaching on Saturdays?
Yeah, that's where his organizational skills need to improve, is in-game management. We've seen a couple of lapses last year where it was head-scratching and said, well, if the head coach is a little more situationally aware, we're probably talking about a win.
Players are better. Roster's better.
Makes coaches better.
But there are times where you have to win a game on your own.
Yeah.
As a coach on a Saturday.
And there's a couple of games this season, specifically that latter part of the year, that's going to be necessary.
That's what we don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, better players make coaches better. I would love to have better players every single day. But I hope I'm good enough in what I do leading up to a game that game is easy, and I just have to chime in periodically. But when I do, I call the right hand. But they're better, and they will lead to bigger things. So there's my.
We will have more fun this fall.
Agreed.
Well, yeah.
402-951-1620 if you need the big red overreaction phone number for August 31st.
No, I was surprised that you said you'd be disappointed if they didn't win 8 games.
I'm amazed to think
fun.
that, and I would not have thought that before spring practice started. But
we're talking about spring practice now.
I know, but you've seen everybody, and I mean, I'm talking everybody take a step forward. Like the fact that Heinrich Haarberg looks like a completely different quarterback, and I don't really expect him to be a factor, but that there's that level of development and guys are taking that big of a jump.
Fair.
Tells me that there's reason to expect change. I asked this of John Schreiner last night, and I'll ask this of you. Is it a bad thing, in your opinion, if we're talking about packages or a package for Heinrich Haarberg running the football?
Yes.
I think so, too.
Why would I take my best player off the field?
That's like leaving Tim Duncan on the bench and letting Ray Allen hit a three because you can't get a rebound.
This coaching staff has not exactly hidden their concern about the handoff run game. And if it's in the kind of break glass in case of emergency last year was quarterback run. And if that's the case this season, I think there's bigger underlining problems.
Then your prediction's right out the window.
I agreed.
Then you are going to be disappointed.
I will. Like I said, you could paint me a picture to 10-2. You could paint me a picture to disappointment.
Just stay healthy, and then let everything else.
A lot of variables, folks. It's a long season.
That's the one I'm always worried about.
Hey, do not overlook the health of keeping key guys healthy.
Keep them healthy, and then go from there.
They have certain spots that have unknown depth issues because they have a lot of young guys that haven't played yet. I like this though.
How do you feel about the defensive back room?
Been listening to the show?
Yeah, but
people got to be a little bit concerned.
And I asked that because I've heard you say that, but Sip talked about it yesterday like it was like one of those areas we shouldn't be concerned about.
Well, he went that way because of the guy that's running the room.
Right.
And that's what, if Evan Cooper was not the defensive back coach and it was somebody else that I didn't think had the coaching chops, I would be really, really concerned. He showed me during spring that some of the younger guys that just arrived were not deer in the headlights and they knew what they were doing. But I'm talking about guys that have played that I know about at a cornerback or safety that have played college football. I think it's the weak link of their defense right now. It's on the third level.
Yeah,
now it's not a super weak link, but it's not.
Those front two were really good.
You have to ask the questions of some of the guys that are in the defensive back room and what are they going to be like? Like we are putting a lot of faith in Tommy Hill eliminating the Tommy Hill experience. He's got a chance to have a monster season, but there is still the Tommy Hill experience that will pop up. And usually when it pops up,
it's like such a jump forward last year, though.
But was there still Tommy Hill experience going on in the Iowa game?
You didn't have him running away from contact, though, which was a major step forward.
Well, you have to eliminate those. Malcolm Hartsock.
Can't give up that touchdown against Colorado.
I think if you want to consider him a defensive back, they have the best player on the field in defense in Isaac Gifford. I have some concerns because of the certain guys there that I need to see. Like I would love to have Singleton. I think Deshaun Singleton can play, but that was a major knee injury. And we can't all of a sudden think that he's going to come back and be like that. Fortunately for them, they have recruited and addressed that room. They've got a lot of young guys that look like dudes, whether they be a Boodle or so on and so forth, or, the health of Buford, staying healthy.
Right.
That they're in a good spot. I just like to wrap my arms around known things.
People have talked openly about Deshaun Singleton being ready to go and available. Is that surprising to you? Because I've been a little shocked to hear about how, quote unquote, ready he sounds.
I mean, it's a major knee injury.
Yeah,
So
but it just
he's got until August.
feels like people are factoring him in for game one, though, in a major
Well,
way.
I don't get the impression that he will not be available.
Okay.
Because he's doing everything.
There's a difference between being available and being Big Ten ready to go out there and play and run and cut and be ready for Colorado.
They probably need him.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do. It's
So
just surprising to me how people are just like, yeah, he's ready to go. We're going to be good.
But if in the Matt Rule world of handling guys with injuries, if he's playing, he's ready to go. Because they don't play guys that are not ready. And if he's on the field, he's ready to go. It's not, because we're need
hoping
him back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Buford situation. It'll be probably the same thing with Hill.
I think that was a big thing that they didn't lose him for as long as they originally
That is
looked.
true.
Yeah,
But
they really like him.
But when will he be back? And when do they feel comfortable to let him out there? They did the same thing with Buford last year. They don't
in October.
They don't do that, and that's perfectly fine. All right, got to take a quick break. Mike Schaefer's coming up top of the next hour. Matt Verzal as well on 1620 The Zone. Speaking of Nebraska football, whether it be in Lincoln for the big Colorado game, a Friday night game, or the rest of the Big Ten slate, you can be in the house with ticketsforless.com. Also, don't forget that big baseball event that's coming up next week. 1 week from today, Tickets for Less has your seats to go see the best in college baseball right here in Omaha. They have the best seats to the sports, concerts, and theater, and never any per-ticket fees. Great customer service, smooth process, and no per-ticket fees. What you see is what you pay. They're transparent. And what you also get is a great deal. Use my promo code THEZONE when you get to checkout. The Zone, all one word, at checkout at ticketsforless.com, and you'll get an additional discount on your next order. That's The Zone at checkout at ticketsforless.com.
Gary Sharp, Nick Hanley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Hanley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. The Connor Happer Show.
Grant Brick's a